relógio já passou dos 49 prometidos pelo árbitro. Cai a chuva. Que tensão. Cobrança de escanteio. Alisson! Alisson! Gol!
Okay.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Pass and Move, and we're recording it high on adrenaline, high on Merlot, and high on seeing Liverpool conquer the normally indefinable, indisputable bunch of cheating tossers that are Atletico Madrid out there in Spain this evening. Oh, I should have warned you in advance that Pass and Move is a 365 radio production, but often contains those sweary bits. But as they normally add to the comedy, we're telling you when in advance. So if you don't like the sweary bits, tough shit. I'm joined tonight by producer Matt Helm, who's somewhere deep in Europe, plugging his current business or plugging lots of things. We are also joined by across the pond from Manny Pereira, our regular correspondent out there in the United States. Good evening, Manny.
Good evening, boys.
And joining the team for the first time tonight, making his Liverpool debut, is the doctor himself, Dr Clive Jackson, the Reverend Dr Clive Jackson, currently still gigging and touring, and you get the chance to plug all those a bit later on, Clive, as well. I
like the way you say still
gigging and touring. Well, a lot of people have passed into the ether, mate, since then as well. So, also one of the top daytime jocks. You can hear him on Thursdays on 365 Radio as well. Good evening, Clive. Welcome to the party.
Well, I just said to you before we came on air, you know, as you said, you've just said it, adrenaline. We could do 2 hours just talking about that game. That game was what football is about. Everything was in it. There was nothing. I don't think, if you can think of any factor of football, it was included in that. There's nothing that wasn't in there. Absolutely amazing. And of course, we won.
Yeah. There was one thing missing for me. I'm always desperate for someone to walk up the touchline and smack Simeone in the face every time I see it. I genuinely cannot. He got me my last Facebook ban, Diego Simeone, as well. When they knocked us out of the Champions League last year, and I happened to write something that Facebook found offensive, and I got a 30-day ban just as the country went into lockdown, so I couldn't communicate with anybody either, which was very unpleasant at the time. But no, always.
Well, I mean, if Facebook found it offensive, it must have been bad.
No, Facebook find the most innocuous things offensive, whilst letting, cruelty to animals, human beings, and life in general go unchallenged, basically, don't they? For those of you who get to witness this on video, you can also find it on YouTube as well. You may be wondering, while Matt is looking reposed, it's not an actual sexy time position Matt's putting on for us there. It's actually 2 hours ahead of where we are in England, and he's officially knackered, I think, aren't you?
I'm very tired.
All right, gentlemen, let's talk about Atletico Madrid. What a game of football, as the doctor quite rightly just said. 3-2 away, 2 goals up after 13 minutes. Salah, Milner, own goal, not quite sure. I think it's finally been credited back to Salah again as well. And then another glorious strike, another glorious volley from Naby Lad. But the only thing he managed to do right in the entire game, in my opinion, as well. And we were cruising, Manny, weren't we, at that point? Absolutely cruising.
Yeah, it's like night and day difference. Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. We started off, I was like, this, it's going to be 5 or 6 before, or Matt's infamous 8 before this one's over. But it quickly turned, and then it went from glorious football to we were kind of shit for a long stretch of time. Became a little difficult to watch. It seemed like everyone never got out of second gear. Surprisingly enough, I kind of felt like even Virgil was just a bit off of it, not quite in the right position. One thing he always has is awesome positioning. And it just felt like he was out of position or facing the wrong way, or and then Naby had the beautiful goal, but got done for both of those Madrid goals, right? Just easily let the guy walk right past them. And that definitely is the start of everything that went wrong. I don't know, was it offside on the second one? I could see it either way. If it was given, I think there can't be too many complaints. And if it wasn't, I think kind of the same. It was, 6 in one hand, half a dozen in the other.
Clive, what did you make of us after 20 minutes? We were cruising, weren't we?
Well, I thought tonight you saw the good, the bad, and the ugly of Liverpool. You saw it all in the one game. You saw amazing play, against Watford. All right, we'll talk about Watford later, but they were rubbish. And but we saw what Liverpool can do. We saw what Liverpool can do for the first 10 minutes, and then suddenly we kind of have these periods in the game where we do turn off. And that's the bad. But then the ugly was the great bit at the end where we just managed to fight and get a result. So I thought you saw all sides of Liverpool in there. But no, I wasn't happy at 2-0 up. I wasn't happy. I thought something's going to happen. Atletico are too good a side to just keep going down like Watford did. No, they're too good a side. And they came back. Plus, you've hinted on it, all the dirty tricks, everything they could throw in the book. They threw at Liverpool through in the game, didn't they?
I mean, they are filthy. It is nice to see that our own masters of the dark arts rose to the occasion. I love it when James Milner starts kicking the crap out of people. And Andy Robertson has got to be the biggest shithouse stirrer I've ever seen in a red shirt since the mid-'80s. He's fantastic at it.
Well, I'll tell you one thing I was disappointed about, and I shouldn't be really because it's a football game. But, Suarez and Robertson have got history from the Barcelona, episode. If you remember, there was a lot of edging on, wasn't there? And Suarez running up to him and laughing and all that business. I was kind of looking forward to round 2 of that, but it didn't really happen, did it? In fact, the only thing Suarez did was shithousery. Sorry, that's a swear word.
Oh,
no, it's not, because it's a whole word. No, yeah, you're allowed that. Well, when he tried to get Van Dijk at the end for a foul, where he looked at Van Dijk and went in and head-butted Van Dijk and then held his head and got a yellow card for and that's one reason why I do not like Luis Suarez. But he tried, didn't he?
Oh, yeah, he definitely tried. I mean, for me, that one of the highlights of the first half, although, as I say, I thought we were fairly dominant and said for 20 minutes before it all started to go wrong. We did a good job of keeping that crowd quiet for 20 minutes. Kieran Trippier and Sadio Mane really don't like each other. That was extremely apparent because the whole first half was, I'm going to elbow you in the face and I'm going to kick you in the back of the legs. That was, I thought Mane's flying elbow in the first half was quite serious and was quite intended as well. But then Trippier's a little shit because did you see the smile on the face when he got Milner booked in the second half as well? Yeah. It was straight out of the Simeone grinning up at David Beckham from all those years ago, isn't it? From lying on the floor and grinning up at Beckham. So, what a wonderful game of football. Just beautiful. I love it when defenders do absolutely incredibly crazy things. We have a Facebook group, Clive, and we have an ongoing thread that people contribute to throughout the game. It's good fun. It's really good banter. It's an ongoing Facebook thread all the way through a match in the Pass&Move Facebook group. And I posted in there, that's the Stonewall list of Stonewall penalties you're likely to see for a very long time.
It was absolutely, and these players, it's like, well, all the examples. This is what I don't get. Now they've got slow motion replays. Do these Atletico players realize how stupid they look once, like Trippier, as you said? That's all on film, mate. You're now down as a knobhead because, you've had an arm across your shoulder and then you've laughed because you've got a yellow card. Is that sportsman? It's rubbish, isn't it? And and then when you see that, when you see in the replay of that penalty, it's rugby. He's looked at him. He's trying to take him out. And I just think players
seems to be the only part of social media that the players don't mind is when they're made to look like knobheads when they've clearly dove or whatever else, right? That part of social media they don't seem to mind. It's everything else that bothers them.
Matt is a great lover of players forgetting that there are cameras on every single angle of the pitch, aren't you, Matt? That makes you laugh tremendously, doesn't it?
Yes. I just don't understand how that hasn't sunk in yet.
Yeah. Well,
I mean, they all talk with their hand in front of their mouth.
Exactly.
I think you were just going to do the same.
Yeah, they all walk around giving it that, and you're thinking, yeah, but we can see you.
Yeah. It's like when I'm sat around the dinner table and my son just puts his hand up like this while he whispers to his sister as if I can't hear because he's directly next to me. Yeah. It's almost the same.
I'll tell you one conversation I would love to hear was when Mane, when Keita scored, Mane, he was, there was Liverpool players have got a brotherhood, haven't they? Yeah. And he was holding him, and I'd love to know what he said because he was talking in his ear, I'd just love to know what he was saying.
For me, I'd like to have heard the one that Jurgen Klopp referred to in the pre-match conference. Did you hear that?
No.
Jurgen Klopp said he would have paid money to be a fly on the wall when Simeone told Suarez he wasn't starting. Because I bet that went down really well, actually, as well. So,
there's one player. Sorry, can I just say there's one player who basically won us that game, and we shouldn't go. That was Alisson. He made at least three definitive saves, and I was listening to something on Talk Sport, and someone, a goalkeeper, training coach, analysed it. And it's this K position. I don't know if you've thought about it, but the two of the three saves he did were the K position. Yeah. So basically, you go. I didn't know about it. You obviously do, but you go out with your army leg, and and he did the K, and he is so good at it, and that saved us. That position alone saved us too. He's made three great saves. He should, Let's not forget.
He was putting his body on the line quite a bit where you were hoping some of the defenders would have done the same in some of those instances.
Well, you look at the statistics tonight. We had, which considering, the way Atletico play, these aren't unusual statistics. We had 11 shots to their 8. We had 6 on target to their 5. 69% possession, which is phenomenal in a Champions League game, even against Atletico Madrid that let you have the ball. But look at the passes, 660 passes to 303. So the as before, Matt, it's a case of Liverpool letting the opposition score in the Champions League, isn't it?
We let them have a go.
I think their only thing was ever going to be long ball, right? So they weren't going to try to play through our midfield. And so I would expect their pass stats to be low because they were simply just launching it, trying to beat our high line. I'm not too surprised by that stat. I mean, are they really the kind of tiki-taka ball possession side anyway? I'm not too surprised by that.
They are they're a lot better. Obviously, individually, they've got better players, but their whole attitude, although I quite respect it in the Premier League, reminds me of Brentford and Wimbledon back in the day. It's just a matter of we are going to kick you around and we're going to make this whole thing as uncomfortable as it can possibly be for you for 90 minutes. And let's be honest, Simeone is such a shithouse. He's guaranteed to be Chelsea manager one day, isn't he? I mean, he's absolutely nailed on to fit in at that club. Absolutely perfect.
And no handshake at the end, straight down the tunnel.
Classless, isn't it? I look forward to hearing Klopp's comments in the morning.
Like school in the summer, no class.
Jurgen doesn't like him.
No. Who likes him? Even his parents don't like him, I
bet. Right, so we have then next a result.
Wait, before moving on, I was just going to... the only thing I wanted to poll you guys is, did anybody think that penalty was ever going to be overturned? I mean, I was shocked. I didn't see that coming. The last one.
Our one being overturned? What you mean?
Theirs.
Yes, yes, in some respects, because I could see it being given, but also his arm never leaves his body, man. His arm never comes up. If his arm had come up in any way, shape, or format, that would have stood.
But I think you tend to see a lot is I gave a penalty, so now this one evens it out kind of thing, and he does make contact, and especially in the EPL, you have the what do they call it? The clear and obvious error, right? And so by that standard, I'm saying, well, there is contact, and so he already made the call. Is there enough to say that call doesn't stand?
You're allowed to you're allowed to make contact with your shoulder, even in the box, because his arm doesn't come up.
But I feel like Jota, he kind of turned a little bit this way.
His arm never comes up. His arm doesn't come up. So that's the only reason I think it was overturned, that his arm doesn't come up, and the guy just goes to ground like.
Well, I think the last bit too is they kept showing the final angle they kept showing was the ball going way past him. I wonder if the possibility of not getting to the ball also factored in.
That doesn't matter. Foul's a foul at the end of the day. Yeah, foul's a foul at the end of the day.
Yeah, no, but I thought on the foul, I thought Jota. He was looking at the ball. The ball was going over. I had no interest in playing the player or the ball. The player ran into Jota. And I was very hopeful, because once the referee goes to the monitor in the Premiership, quite generally, it's an overturn. In the Champions League, you don't know. So my heart was in my mouth. And isn't it sad when an exciting moment in a game is watching a referee looking at a screen? But there we are. Yeah.
So for 3 minutes.
Yes.
Live as well, for 3 minutes.
Yeah.
3 minutes, during which time a crowd are stewing to the point of boiling. And going over.
Yeah.
But it's what a lovely moment. And Simeone,
I think the length of time also made me nervous, right? Because it seems like it's that close, right? That it's taken us this long to decide it, that they're just going to say let it stand.
I thought their goal, the offside goal, was going to be disallowed because of the length of time it took to review the goal. I genuinely thought they were going to overturn their other attempts.
I honestly think the referees' decisions, right or wrong, I think they did even themselves out over the game, if I'm honest.
I think the officials had a really good game. Weren't influenced by the crowd, weren't influenced by the shithousery, weren't influenced by any of the tactics of the managers on the line. I thought the officials had a really good game tonight by the looks of it as well.
Yeah.
And not just because we got the result. If that had finished a draw, I'd have been well impressed with the officials on that.
Yeah. It's always easy to referee a match from the comfort of your couch, but you're running up and down the pitch, you're seeing things in real time. How much can you see? I thought it was a fairly well called game.
Yeah, I agree. So we have them next before we move on to a retrospective view, of which Manny's about to give me a tongue lashing for making him wait so long to review.
I don't remember the game anymore. I can barely remember what I had for breakfast.
We have the chance to put the Champions League to bed now. Next in a couple of weeks, with Atletico coming back to Anfield. Now that will be a special night, and I'd like to go back to something. We have a very outspoken columnist who's got to get up early for work, so unfortunately he's not with us, called Keith, and he made the point that when the draw was made, Clive, that this was exactly what you go into the Champions League for. Who wants to play Waitrose and Lidl away in easy rollover games? If you're going to do it, get your sleeves rolled up and get in it from day one. And let's be honest, this has been one of the best groups we've ever been involved in so far, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. And I mean, all you got to do is look back, to the nights at Anfield, particularly European nights at Anfield. I mean, let's just go back to Barcelona, Liverpool, Anfield. Do you know what? That's what you want to see. You want to see teams like Atletico Madrid come in with a bit of an axe to grind, with a bit of history, with something there to play for. You want to sit there, and that's, absolutely what it's all about. And, perfect.
Right, now, before we move into our reviews of moments past, so you're a Red, Reverend Doctor. Tell us all about it. I mean, born and bred, I gather, from what you were telling me.
Well, I was born in Liverpool, though, to be more specific, Knotty Ash. I was actually born in Knotty Ash, and those of us who are old enough to remember will remember that if you're born in Knotty Ash, you actually have to serve. You have a bit of a subscription. You have to go in the Jambutty mines and I did my 6 months in the Jambutty mines, and it wasn't easy because I'm tall and the Diddy men are small, so it hurt. So anyway, that's.
I'm really enjoying Manny's complete vague expression at this particular moment. I mean, Matt and I are totally on board with you here. Manny has got absolutely no idea what we're talking about. Manny, just Google the song "Happiness." Everything is becoming made clear for you.
Happiness.
born in Notty Ash. Family's from Anfield. My granddad worked his whole life. Weird story. I'm not going to get into that, but we don't know where the name Jackson goes to my dad. He was orphaned at birth. No one knows his name. We don't know anything. We've kind of found a few bits out, but they just called him Jack Jackson. So when people say they've traced their family history back to the beginnings, I go, yeah, so have I. My granddad. I worked as a mechanic in London, lived off the Breck Road, so he used to work 6 days a week, right? People had 5 days holiday a year. He used to walk up the Breck Road to go and watch the team play at Anfield. And so that's where I come from. So am I ever going to be any other colour than red? No. And it's an absolute privilege because we still have family there. I have cousins there, and we do go for one game a year, and we go to Anfield, and we always go. The people who live in my old nan and granddad's house must wonder when they see me and my family get out of a taxi in front of their house every year, right? And then take the walk that my granddad did. And then we did it. Yeah. We go up to Anfield and we watch at least one game a year, and it's in the blood.
Yeah, well, absolutely. Excellent taste, my friend. That's all I can say. So, Manny, 2-2. We're going to go back. We didn't get the chance to reflect on Manchester City. I had a private message sent to me, gentlemen, by Manny saying it's absolutely criminal that we're not on air after a game like this. What is wrong with you? Moaning at the producers, weren't you, Manny, as well? Well,
listen, I didn't realize that Salah was going to score an almost identical goal to the one that he did at City. So, I was like, we're going to miss talking about the goal. We're going to miss about how shit we were in the first half and how different we were to start the second, how we, let City crawl back in and we just couldn't control the game. But yeah, what are you going to do?
You look back at the game, obviously 2-2. A couple of points to go on to. There's no point in hiding it. It's 2 games in a row that Mohamed Salah has scored one of the greatest goals I've ever seen in my entire life. 2 weeks running, 3 weeks apart, rather. But you go back to, there's some points I wanted to raise. The City game was an interesting game because we allowed, I think you're quite right, Manny, we allowed City to dominate proceedings, especially for the first half. But most worryingly, and you could see from Klopp's reaction, was we actually allowed them to dictate the pace of the game as well, and set the pace of the game. And that now has become their tactic with us. It's we call it, we try and kill a crowd as we did tonight by going on the front foot. Well, they take the sting out of Liverpool. And the other point I wanted to make was there were a lot of people after a couple of excellent performances he put in prior to that, having a go at James Milner for being 36 years old and up against Phil Foden. James Milner at 24 years old would not have caught Phil Foden. He's never had the pace to deal with someone like Phil Foden. So it didn't really make a lot of difference. For me, it's just that Phil Foden is an exceptional young player and would have given anybody a dance, and probably would have given Trent a dance on that particular day, I think, as well. He was excellent. Matt, you had quite strong views on that game as well, if I remember rightly.
Well, I was there.
Yeah, exactly.
I didn't think the first half was that bad from our point of view. Man City were just as bad as us. I've never seen Kevin De Bruyne misplace so many passes in the game. It was unreal. So yeah, I don't know.
You didn't fully appreciate the wonder of the goal either, did you?
Oh God, no! It's one of those ones where you, unfortunately, you have to watch it on TV to appreciate how good it was. Because you were like, I was in the main stand right up at the top, and like I just saw him like jig around, and then like a few people fell on the floor, and then it was in the back of the net. It was like, what happened there? So it was phenomenal. Everyone went mad, but it was like you had to be either right beside it or watch it on TV on repeat.
I have no qualms admitting that. Even an old mate, Danny Baker, commented. He said, "I think I've just seen one of the greatest goal I've ever seen scored in the Premiership." And he's no fan of Liverpool as well. Just a remarkable game of football. it's Manny. It's these two. Those are the two teams, aren't they? It's between those two teams and nobody else.
Yeah, and I think critically, what's going to end up, how do we do in the second match against them in the season, right? So the draw is fine, but if we lose the next one, you really would have wished you would have come away with the win at home. So that would be a little disheartening. But it's the two best teams in the league, right? So the draw is the most fitting result. And I would say, especially how poorly we performed in that first half, to come out all even into halftime was critical, right? Because we deserved to be behind in that first half, and that set us up for the second half and allowed us to play how we wanted to play.
I think when Klopp said he would have paid to be on the wall to see the Simeone discussion today, I would have paid to heard the discussion at half time, because our manager is an amazing man manager. What did he say? How did he make that team go from the bad to the good? As I say, Liverpool had the good, the bad, and the ugly. He just took them from the bad, and they came out as a different team. What did he say and what did he do? And that's why he's Jurgen Klopp and we love him.
Yeah. So and on the US feed, I don't know if you got this post-match of Klopp, right? So the US the US commentator, Arlo White, asked him, what did he say at halftime to change things up? And he said, nothing. I simply told them to do what I had told them at the start of the match. That the problem was they weren't doing anything I told them to do. And so I simply told them, do what I told you to do. So apparently, now obviously I'm sure more was said, probably some expletives thrown in there, maybe some in German. And but essentially he was saying the real halftime talk was, you're not doing what I asked you to do at the start of the match. Now go do that.
Right.
I have to credit where credit's due. For one of the goals of the season, Rodri's block on Fabinho was just out of this world.
Yeah, I don't know how he gets back. It's incredible how quickly he got back, because he's so far away.
Fabinho must watch that on video over and over again, thinking, how do I not score?
And there's nothing he did wrong. You watch that replay and you're like,
you're right.
Could he have gotten the shot off faster? What could he have done to score? Because you watch that and you go, that's a goal. You're like, he must have messed up. No, Rodri became a plastic man and stretched out. It was incredible. I mean, definitely saves the season for them there.
Yeah, absolutely.
I hope it doesn't come back to bite us like the goal line save from Stones a few years back.
Where the ball was 89.9%
millimeters
over the line. Yeah, absolutely.
Because we lost the league by 1 point. That goal is the league, right?
Clive, you'll get used to the posse here. Matt is the eternal optimist who predicts 8-0 in every prediction that we're going to do. And Manny moans about everything.
Right.
Constantly. Don't you? Constantly.
Yeah, I'm not happy unless I'm complaining. I learned it from my father. He complains about everything.
All right,
I'm kind of in the middle. I'm kind of there. I kind of like to be a realist about it. And I think, it is what it is, in my opinion. But when it's good, love
Yeah, well, Matt's the agent provocateur, and I don't mean he wears the sexy underwear. Matt on the Facebook feed.
Well, wait. Let's not rule that out. He may have sexy underwear on, but not really.
I was going to say with his screensaver thing earlier, you couldn't tell what he was wearing. Maybe we don't know.
Yeah, you say that exactly. Matt is well known to put Klopp out when we're 5-0 up in the Facebook feed, and this lot are useless. And FSG should spend more money also when we're 5-0 up and things as well, just to generate some chuckles, Matt, for shits and giggles, isn't it? Really, as well. And just
can I just butt in here with something when you say about FSG should spend money, all this stuff, right? I love the thing about being a Liverpool fan is at the beginning of the season, listening to Talk Sport and people like that. They're all talking about Man City. This year, it was Man City, Man United, Chelsea. But Liverpool haven't paid anyone. They're so stupid, right? We didn't have to buy anyone. Okay, securing, the players that we've got and keeping them in and keeping them happy is, okay, we didn't buy Ronaldo. But look what, it's all gone wrong. It got to the point where last week, and this is a true conversation, last week, they were talking about the demise of Barcelona and Real Madrid. And the conversation was, does this now open the doors for Man City to win the Champions League? Honest to God, that was a conversation I had. Oh, because of the demise of them. No, Liverpool, I love the fact that we always go under the radar and people say, we should sign this, we should sign that. No, We've actually got a very good squad, and we've got more depth than any of those idiots give us credit for. Oxlade-Chamberlain tonight came on and did a very good job, by the way.
I thought he was very impressive tonight. He's one of his better performances as a substitute for a long time tonight as well. I thought he carried the ball quite well tonight. Looking at there have been some classics like that. He said we're great fans of going under the radar here at Pass&Move. Go on and talk about everybody else. Go on.
Yes, absolutely.
Gary Neville.
Look at the,
go and tell the world how Liverpool aren't good enough to win the league. Please keep going, Gary. You do.
And you look at the money spent by City. Is Grealish worth what they paid for him? I mean, he doesn't fit the system, right? It's the square peg in the round hole.
The biggest forget Grealish. Ronaldo, I'm afraid, he came on. Oh, wow, he scored in his first game. Wow. Oh, hang on.
Yeah.
Oh.
I made the point, Clive, at the weekend on watching the highlights, the good old British match of the day highlights. And Matt, I'm going to cue you up, Matt. I know I often do this and you let me down. I'm queuing you up here for your well-rehearsed sentence. Okay? Ready for this? Okay, right. I watched the highlights package and of match of the day, and I'll do a little blog about it, a little review about it. And it came to my attention on watching it that in a 14-minute highlight package of Manchester United versus Leicester, that they didn't mention the £500,000 a week signing's name once in 14 minutes. He was seen giving the ball away in the post-match analysis by one of the two shaven-headed pundits, whoever it was, who was stupid enough to be on there at the weekend. And that was it. Now, I mentioned that to Matt, and Matt said...
Oh, it was a number of things. I think
Statue.
Oh, yeah. I said it's nice of Man United to build a statue for Ronaldo, only they built it actually on the pitch. You've got the Premier League player for September whose name wasn't mentioned once in the game at the weekend, and then you have the greatest player currently in the world playing just down the road.
That's what you get when you have Norway's finest PE teacher. I mean, the wonder goal that Greenwood scored that weekend, and you're like, the focus is on Ronaldo. They're clearly putting their attention on the wrong guy at this point. It's like, I don't know. They're putting out good money after bad.
I'm going to ask Matt to do another one of his party pieces. Would you like to do your explanation about how Ollie picks his team, Matt? Because this is brilliant.
He just talks to all the good fellas and just says, go out there and do your stuff.
Not musical chairs?
Yeah.
No. He just finds all the good ones.
You're a good one.
He puts them up on Championship Manager or Football Manager or whatever it's called nowadays.
Yeah.
It says, I've got a good
one.
I went
through the FIFA ratings, and you're one of the good ones.
You're really good at passing. You stand in the middle. Pass it to the fast lad up front who's got 96 pace.
Do you know, between us, this could descend into a 2-hour long critique of Man United. We would all thoroughly love it, wouldn't we? And I'm sure
wouldn't even scratch the surface with 2 hours.
Yeah,
but the thing is, they're giving us so much ammunition now.
Yeah, War and Peace would be praised for its brevity compared to
Matt's making himself
kind of material on them.
Yeah, especially with them coming up at the weekends. Okay, let's have a look at the Watford game. Possibly the single most one-sided game of football I can honestly remember seeing for some considerable period of time, and I've watched Norwich quite a few times. So I mean, two things happen when you get a new manager. You get the infamous new manager bounce, where everybody puts a shift in and does their turn for the new boss, or the new boss picks a team of players that obviously haven't got a fucking clue what he's expecting them to do or what they're expected to do individually, and stand there and shout at each other like a bunch of strangers that have never seen each other before. And it was a case of, I'll take B, please, Bob, at the weekend for Claudio, who decided to tinker from the off. But as again, Matt and I, because we worked together, said quite from that, it didn't matter who we played at the weekend, because at the weekend, we were beating anybody 4 or 5-0.
Yeah, we were. We'd have beaten the vast majority of the league by a lot of goals on that day.
It was just that day. It was like Palace the other season. It was just that day when nothing was going to get in the way of Liverpool. Looking at Manny, did you get a chance to look at the stats on that? I've got them here if you haven't.
I did not. I mean, they definitely got the most. Who is that guy still in the EPL players on their squad where you're like, holy shit, Danny Rose is there? Wait, Musa Sissoko? Who is the third guy? Where I'm like, oh, he plays for them too? Like they seem to be just picking up the scraps around the league.
Didn't Matip have more completed passes than the entire Watford team?
Yes, he did. Yes, yeah, he did. We had 78. We actually had at one point 83, but we finished on 78% possession, which in any Premier League game is a farcical amount to have, even for Liverpool. And we had, I know I said this in the last match, but you ready for this? Watford managed 228 passes to Liverpool's 866. It's staggering. A pass accuracy of nearly 90%. Not a great lover of stats, but the best one is 19 shots from Liverpool in that game, which is phenomenal. And when our front three are firing like they have been recently, they're unplayable. They're completely unplayable. That was the outside of the foot pass from Salah to Mane was as beautiful as the individual goal for me. And Clive, that was just breathtaking, wasn't it?
The Salah goal. Well,
the pass to Mane, the outside of the foot pass.
Oh my God! Sorry. Yeah, no, absolutely. And the thing about, we're going to talk about attackers later, aren't we, in the program? But the thing about Salah is his goal scoring. We all know that. But when you watch him week in, week out, there'll be a defensive situation and someone will come in and make a crucial tackle. Who is it? It's Salah. He's play all around the pitch, and his passing, and that pass was just, it was just poetry. It was fantastic. Beautiful.
And of course, they don't get on Manny, do they? Salah and Mane. They obviously don't get on.
I love, they have one dust up in the league and everyone's saying that there's clearly problems. And listen, I'll be the first one to raise my hand and say last year I was critiquing Salah for being so selfish, but this season I can't think of a guy who's become more selfless on the side than Salah.
Hang on. I think when you get two massive superstars like that, say for example, it was Ronaldo and Messi, right? Now, let's be honest, at the moment, Salah is a better player than all of them. Okay, fair enough. So, but the fact that, imagine if Messi had scored that goal at the weekend, it would have been headlines on the world press, wouldn't it? Yeah. But no, it's not. But you have two players that good, and yet they still get on as well as they do, and their empathy on the pitch is as good as it is. And you know what? Sometimes they might take a chance instead of passing it to the other one, but that's because they can score from that position, and the other guy's doing his job. And I think, do you know what? When people said they don't get on, it doesn't actually matter if they don't get on personally. It's not an issue, but on the pitch, I think they get on very well. I'm impressed by how the pair of them do play together. By the way,
well, that comes. I mean, obviously. And it just goes to show that he struggled for form last year, as did quite a few people. But the difference in Bobby having a rest and performing is just staggering. I mean, people said, all three of his goals came from there. But you've got to be in those places and know where the ball's going to go. It was, the team goal for Bobby's first, the reverse pass from Mane, the ball across the box from Milner, was just poetry. It was absolutely beautiful football. It was marvellous.
I actually like the second one because Robbo getting it in and the keeper deflecting it away. I always feel like we're never there to poach those goals where the keeper parries it away and there's nobody there to just tap one in. I'm like, oh, why is no one in the box? Why aren't people getting into positions to get loose balls? And so when that one went in, I'm like, we should be, with our front three, we should be getting more of those.
Yeah, even though it should have been offside, but I understand that's not the rule, but there you go. I have some sympathy and think that should have been offside.
But quickly with the three of them, I heard a statistic tonight about how many of our goals have been scored between the front three, between Salah, Mane and Firmino. And I think it's like something like all but 3 or 4 goals have been scored by them.
I remember the statistic, and if you take tonight's into consideration, bearing in mind that one's now gone back from Milner, it's now 15 of the last 15 have been scored by that front three now.
Well, there you go. Say no more.
Yeah,
but can we just say for James Milner, I felt so sorry for him. If you saw him when he put his foot on the ball and it went in, and he put his hands up like that, he thought he'd scored.
I still thought it was his goal at the end of it.
Yeah, I did. Oh, and I felt so sorry for him. Anyway, Milner, his 60th game in Europe, and he'd scored it, and everyone ran to Salah, and it's like, oh, okay. And then finally, no.
Matt, do you find it still? I find it quite amusing, Matt, don't you? That whenever Milner's booked, he instantly looks at the bench and thinks, "Oh, I'm coming off now." You can actually just see it on his face. Oh, they're going to take me off now. You can just see it.
I just like that he didn't seem bothered at all with the ref or anything else. He's just kind of like, all right, get on with it. Let's keep moving on.
He always takes one for the team.
I kicked the shit out of him. Let's keep moving.
Yeah, he does, Matt. He does take one for the teammate, doesn't he? Very much.
He does.
Just buying here. We were talking about Matt's lingerie choice. Not sure what's going on there now.
Yeah.
I'm relaxing.
For those of you listening on audio, obviously, we should explain that Matt is currently reposing, like I should say, in a very alluring fashion. Obviously,
it's like 10 to 1 here.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on. Pornhub first. Is it Salah's goal against Watford or Matt lying down on this podcast?
Oh yeah, it's bound to be me. on our goal scoring. The stats are quite interesting because I think the last 3 seasons we've scored up to this point. We'd scored 13, I think it was 12 when we won the league, and last season was 13 again. We scored 22 so far.
Yeah, and also I've got a lovely stat for you, which I quite like. Did you know that on Saturday? Liverpool became the first British club to score in more than 3 goals, 3 or more goals in 7 consecutive away games in all competitions, which is an amazing statistic. But tonight they became the first British club to score in 3 or more goals in 8 consecutive away performances, breaking the record that they set last Saturday.
If you're the best, the worst, longest, immersed, if you're the base, the ace, furthest in space, if you can score more than ever before, then you're
yeah. I still think the better one was when we had our unbeaten run and they would show who was in second place and they had like 3 and we're at like 60. That was always a favorite of mine.
That's 21 games in all competitions now, unbeaten as well. I asked you a couple of questions pre the pod tonight, and the first one was, which I think we're pretty much in agreement of, Mo Salah, currently the best player in the world.
Can I start off?
Yeah,
with some input from my mother.
Please do.
My mother. She watches every. Yeah, I will do. She watches every Liverpool game, and she refers to Mo Salah as the headless chicken, and said he no, hear me out, no, please. Right, she said he just runs around, he just gets to the ball, he doesn't seem to know what he's doing, and he'll run around, and then they'll all take it off him. And you know what? When I listened to what she said and looked at Mo Salah after that, I thought, actually, to my mum, that's what he does. He gets the ball, but the fact is he's always got 3 or 4 players around him. And so statistically, it's going to go wrong most times. He's going to get the ball and he's going to bounce around. But when you look closely, as we've had the chance to do with that wonder goal, and you see it in slow motion, and you see that when it goes right, what he's actually doing. And of course, if that doesn't work 9 times out of 10, it doesn't matter, because when it does work, he's going to score a goal that nobody else can score. And I wonder if my mum watched Messi as often as she's seen Salah, what she'd say about Messi. Because when you see all these clips put together of Messi, oh great, you don't see all the times. It doesn't go right for Messi. But when you try ambitious things, they're not always going to work. If you've watched the game with Messi, you'll realise that he doesn't do that all the time. And so therefore, I think Mo Salah at the moment is the greatest player in the world. And because my mum made me look at him in a different way.
Well,
Yeah.
Matt, we can support your mum's argument because I'm of the opinion, and I still am, that Mo Salah is the worst passer in the Liverpool team.
Oh, hang on. You just told me about the pass. Come on.
No. I believe that Mo Salah is the worst passer in the Liverpool team, but that is influenced by the fact, because Manny's always going on about the fact he always gives the ball away. But that is reinforced by your mum's knowledge, there, Dr. Clive, that he has 4 people around him, so he has to choose what to do with the ball very fucking quickly in an awful lot of occasions, which will tend to you giving the ball away more than someone who's got a lot more time to consider what they're going to do with it. But as you quite rightly said, if you're going to take someone on every single time you get the ball and not be afraid of the failure and not be afraid of the fact that it might not work, then it is going to go wrong. But when it goes right, my God, it's a wonderful thing to witness.
I don't think there's even a debate whether or not he's the best, because if you take arguably the people who are discussed above him, the Paris Saint-Germain front 3, all of them combined have less goals than Mo Salah. So you can add those 3 assholes together, and they don't equal the same amount as this one man. So
and they're playing Sunday League football, Manny, as well.
Yes, they're in a farmers league.
Yeah.
I always felt though that I always felt that Mo. I'm like, man, if he just gave himself a little bit more space, he plays too tight to the defender when he could probably stay a little further away and use his pace to his advantage. But in back-to-back weeks, he was in close company and scored 2 of the greatest goals I've ever seen in my life.
But I said earlier as well, goal scoring is not the only asset of his game. From the back to the midfield, he does have, he's got other assets.
Matt, you and I are always quite impressed by how strong the little git is, aren't we?
Oh, it's phenomenal. I reckon there's a whole separate set of rules for him, because he always has like a defender hanging off his neck that he's dragging around and never gets a foul. But he's phenomenally fit.
Have you ever seen Graham Souness talk about Mo Salah? He's obsessed with his calves.
Yeah,
Graham Souness will say like, he's got his calves like that. He's obsessed with Mo Salah's calves.
I mean, he is a little tank, Salah, isn't he? He uses his arse as well as Dalglish used to use his arse, and I will never forget the running of Daniel James from the assist from Alisson at Old Trafford, where the United game rather, where he just burned Daniel James, and Daniel James has 4 goes attempting to bring him down, and in each case it's get off, goal. It's just he's incredibly strong.
Don't underestimate that low center of gravity, right? Messi, Maradona, Salah, people with that low center of gravity are much harder to take down because it's much easier for them to balance.
The 2 goals, I actually think Watford's better than City, but City will get more qualitative mentions because of the quality of the defence he was playing against, definitely. But the ability shown in that, it's Maradona-esque. It is. I haven't seen anything like it since Diego Maradona. It's staggering.
Yeah, and I couldn't agree more. I felt exactly the same way. The Watford goal, I think, in my opinion, is better, but the City goal will get more credit because of the opposition.
Yeah, the fact he puts Ruben Diaz on his arse is it's just
no, better yet, Bernardo Silva on his ass. The biggest shit. The most punchable face in the league got put on his ass.
we dislike Bernardo Silva intensely on this podcast.
And he's a compatriot of mine, so that means a lot.
But you got to look at Ruben Diaz, Cathcart from Watford. Yeah, it's a bit more of a thing to put Ruben Diaz on his backside, isn't it, as well? So I don't think there's any problem there. Now we're going to briefly touch on the fact that it's begun to leak, which is always a good thing. That Salah's contract figure is going to settle about 400 grand a week as requested. I don't know Liverpool's finances, but I know enough about Liverpool sport and what it will take to replace him. That I don't think that's an unreasonable figure. I think it would only be leaked if Liverpool were happy to have it leaked in the first place. I think that a lot of people have said, you're breaking the wage structure. Let's be honest, guys, none of us are professional sportsmen, but we've all been in industries. I'm going to pick the Reverend Doctor who's with us at the moment for his debut. When you're on the bill of a gig, Clive, you fully appreciate that if you're not headlining, the people above you are going to be paid more, aren't you? Because they're the headliners.
Well, I've lived on kind of what's the lowest league you've got in the moment? In
Conference.
I've lived on
The
Conference
MLS.
League wages for ages, and I go to festivals, and we play with Premier League people. And in fact, best illustration of that is when I compare at the Rewind festivals, for example. You know, there's people up there. That's what people come to see. They don't come to see the idiot GJ who had one hit. I love what I do, and I'm so appreciative of my position, and I love that. And the fact that people get more money, it's common sense. Now, I'd like to think that most professional footballers have that same realization.
I believe.
And if you realise the guy up front who's getting £400,000 a year is the reason you're getting £230,000 a week, and let's be honest, when you're earning £1 million a month, are you really going to get upset about the fact that you're there earning that? Because as a team, he's up, and if he goes to someone else, he's going to be scoring those goals against you.
Exactly.
So that's yeah.
You know, yeah, that guy is the difference between. Now, there is a shoe to the other foot to this. Right? There is a shoe to the other foot to this, and we'll touch on it because it gives us a chance to have a pop at United again. But if everybody said, "Oh, well, Virgil van Dijk's one of Liverpool's top earners. He won't be happy." Van Dijk is going to look at the fact that that guy is the difference between us winning titles, winning championships. You know, like no matter how good a defender you are, you don't win. You very rarely win the Ballon d'Or. You very rarely win the big awards. You know, you understand when you're a defender that the glory goes to the front man in a band and the glory goes to the strikers in the football.
I'll take that one step further. When my brief playing career, and by the way, I'm going to drop a bomb on you. I did play for Jess Conrad's Celebrity 11.
Wow.
And I was invited for a trial at Charlton Athletic, but that's another long story. We'll talk about that one time. But I was a goalkeeper. And I always think that goalkeepers are so underrated because you get a striker that might score so many goals a season. You got a goalkeeper that might save so many more goals per season than anyone else. And I'm talking about Alisson here. You know, we must not underrate but Alisson will not be there sitting thinking, well, he's on 400,000. No goalkeeper gets that. They maybe should, but they don't. So, you know, but it's a team's, and it's a game. You know what you're going into. It's not like you walk in to a team, you know, uneducated and not knowing what you're going to be doing or what the situation is financially. And then suddenly someone goes, oh, well, this guy's scoring loads of goals. We're going to give him a bit more money. And you go, what? No. They all know the score. And if they're professional, they should accept it. But I do think goalkeepers should get more money.
Well, I think in our case, our one probably does. Finishing up from Watford. I mean, Matt, your thoughts, worth the money or not?
What, Mo?
Yeah.
Yeah, I doubt it's going to be 400 grand, like as in here's 400 grand a week.
Base
I
pay.
reckon it will be 300 plus the rest in incentives. Apparently, they all earn about 350-ish a week when we won the Premier League.
Yeah. So
with all their bonuses and everything, because they're heavily incentivized.
Yes.
That's their wage structure. So I doubt it'll be 400.
And that's when you get that. That's coming back to the media. It's a shame James isn't with us tonight because James is our normal media analysis who likes to call out the media for everything. And everybody goes back and goes, but Liverpool have already got one of the highest wage structures. Yes, because we won the fucking league and won the Champions League and they earned a lot of money in bonuses. It's not fucking rocket science, you know? Like,
the only thing that worried me about this is FSG, from an American sports perspective, has always been happy to let a superstar walk because the money wasn't right. And so the fear for me has always been, if Salah's asking for too much, they're more than happy to say you can leave and we'll replace that money through Moneyball, right? Or replace the stats through Moneyball and filling in, dividing up that production amongst different players. So
who can afford him though? There's only really two clubs that can afford him.
Yeah, it's PSG and Manchester, Newcastle.
PSG's going to play a front four.
Or Newcastle.
Newcastle aren't in the Champions League.
No, we'll come on to
You
Newcastle.
wouldn't go there.
Right.
Ridiculous money makes you forget about the Champions
Now,
League.
we're on the subject of strikers because we're on the subject of red-hot Liverpool players. So let's have a look. Who actually did get the chance to have a look at that? Manny has in his hand a piece of paper. I sent round.
This is the definitive list. Let's make it clear.
I saw it and I've made notes.
I sent round a list to everybody listening at home. I sent round a list of 10 Liverpool Premier League strikers and asked the guys to rank them in order. And the strikers were in no particular order. Robbie Fowler, Mo Salah, Luis Suarez, Michael Owen, Sadio Mane, Bobby Firmino, Daniel Sturridge, Dirk Kuyt, Fernando Torres, and Peter Crouch. Now, what I'd like you to do is very briefly go through your 10 to 1. We're going to start with Manny and give us your reasons before it. And then we'll all have a little chat once we've all done it and see where we agree on certain things. So, Manny, away you go.
All right. He's big. He's red. His feet hang off the bed. Peter Crouch as number 10. Daniel Sturridge, number 9, mainly because his lack of fitness. He wasn't there enough. I think his best season was flattered that he had Suarez taking all the attention away from him, which gave him a ton of space.
Have you read my fucking notes?
I have Dirk Kuyt in 8 because of his industry. I mean, talk about a guy who did more with less than Dirk Kuyt, right? I felt like he didn't have pace, he didn't have height, he didn't have good looks, but man, he came in clutch sometimes. Number 7, I have Bobby, mainly because he's more in the, distributing the ball than he is scoring it. So when you think of a forward, you want someone who's putting the ball in the back of the net. 6, I've got Sadio Mane. I think I'm spotting a consistent pattern here. I know personally I love Sadio for what he does off the ball and his general shithousery. Otherwise, and yes, he's been making a meal of some goals, but he seems to be getting back into some form now.
Just scored 100th goal.
Yeah,
no penalties.
79 in the Premiership.
Yeah, I believe he's the number 3 highest goal scorer without a penalty to his credit. So 4 and 5, these guys were a bit before when I started following the side, so it was a little hard for me to put them in order. So I'm simply going by how they ranked in my brother-in-law stats. So I have Fowler at 5 and Owen at 4. For me, I started watching Liverpool when Torres, a little bit after, I should say, I started watching before Torres came on. I don't know, something about him. I love the Torres bounce as a song. He really gelled well in that side, and that spine of Gerrard, Torres, and Alonso was really great, with Reina in the back distributing out to those. Here's the controversial part. I know Salah might be our best forward ever, but in my heart, number 1 is Luis Suarez, because I don't know. I know Salah just scored 2 of the most amazing goals I ever saw, but I felt we got that every single week with Luis Suarez. Every single week, Luis Suarez left me saying, how the fuck did he score that goal? From the header outside the box against Fulham, to the over-the-shoulder goal against Newcastle, to the multiple hat tricks against Norwich. Something about that guy made me alive. And so for that, he's number 1.
Clive, over to you.
Well, okay. I've got to right. Firstly, I've got to say Suarez, he was higher up in my list. After tonight, I just thought he's bottom. Right. I can't put up with a Liverpool player, a heritage, like behaving like that. I can't forget the bite. I can't forget how he played tonight. Tried to steal a goal by being disgusting. No, he's actually the bottom of my list. I don't like him. I don't like the way he left Liverpool. And to me, being a forward, forget being a forward. Being a Liverpool forward means more than what you do on the pitch. Yeah, okay. Yeah. So Suarez went to bottom. He was higher up in my list. He's got the bottom. So above him,
are you telling me he's just been Jimmy Savilled?
Yeah, he's been cancelled.
The news is in.
Yeah, he's been cancelled. Absolutely. So he's bottom of the list. Then above him, you've got Torres, who's number 9. Crouch, number 8. Sturridge, number 7. Kuyt, number 6. Is it?
Can I ask, is Torres above him? Chelsea move?
No, I thought Torres. Sorry, you mean Torres? Sorry.
Yeah. Why do you have him so low? Is it because of the move to Chelsea?
Yeah, because he started okay. He was all right, and then I just thought he wasn't. There was a lot of times I remember watching him and just seeing him. He should score there if he's a great, and he wasn't, and he didn't do it. That's why. And then Cow, and then here's a controversial one: Owen next, because everyone above him I rate higher. And this is a serious point. When they have these top albums of all time charts in the NME or anything like that, quite often. So, for example, one year, Jesus and the Mary Chain were number one because they were hip at the time, and that's what was happening. So, I'm going with that philosophy. So, I'm going with the guys at the moment, assuming they're good. So, Owen's there because then I've got Firmino above him. Then I've got Mane. Then above him, I've got Salah. And at the top, it can't be anyone else.
God.
It's Fowler. It's God.
Yeah.
God, got to be. If you're talking about a Liverpool striker, it's got to be God. End of.
Matt, did you get a chance to have a look at this?
Oh, yeah. Of course I did.
Go for it.
Matt Googled the answer.
I've got to tell you this, right? Matt's sitting there coolly saying, yeah, of course I did. Hadn't read the fucking email when we started this while we were waiting for everybody to log in. So let's see.
Well, he was reading the email when you said, I'm going to cue you to say the one thing I need you to say. He was reading the email.
Yeah.
Can I be honest as well? Matt is not sitting there.
No, that's very true. Yeah.
That's right.
Matt's giving it. Matt's
Might as well be
full
asleep.
of Dr. Hook's sexy eyes at this particular moment.
Maybe make them blue jeans toss.
Yeah,
Right.
go for it.
Number 10 is Dirk Kuyt because he's shy. And number 9 was Fernando Torres because, I was never really, Peter Crouch, number 8. Daniel Sturridge, number 7. Luis Suarez, number 6, for the exact same reason as Clive said. Because I just don't like him as a human being. He's not a very nice person. And then Firmino, number 5, Michael Owen, number 4, Sadio, number 3, Robbie Fowler, number 2, and Mo Salah at the top.
Okay, I'm going to round off the voting. And from 10 to 6, I'm in amazingly, because we never agree on anything. We agreed on something.
I should say the one thing we've always agreed on is forwards, though.
Yeah, the one thing we agreed on, because we've been doing this a long, long time. And 8 years ago, we both agreed on the fact, believe this or not, Clive, that Jordan Henderson was shit. And then we've both had to eat humble pie with Zaha's custard on many occasions over that fact.
Well, actually, you were possibly right at some time. But no, I'd just like to say something that Henderson, whenever I see a team line up without Henderson or Milner in it for any reasons, I'm worried. Yeah.
Yeah, me too. No, we both felt that we bought this kid, I'll never forget, Manny called him a mouth breather. I've never forgotten that. Running around.
I also bent my testicles, so I'm only working on one testicle now.
What'd you say? A mouth trying to run around catching fish or something, Manny used to say on the time.
Yeah,
who was played in all sorts of positions to basically accommodate Stevie G, but we can see what happened afterwards. But Manny and I historically never agree on anything. So if you are watching this on video, you will have seen when Manny was doing his countdown that I felt like erecting a quick gallows behind me and hanging myself because I agreed with his first 6.
Yeah. So you immediately know your list is wrong.
Yeah, exactly. At number 10, I have Peter Crouch, purely and simply because he's Peter Crouch. He offered us something different, but I've never forgotten the fact that it took him 4.5 years to score his first goal for the Reds. At number 9, I have Daniel Sturridge for the simple reason that Sturridge was made to look, and he's a good player, but he was made to look a far better player, the same as Raheem Sterling was, by the fact that 8 of the opposition would try and surround Luis Suarez every time he got the ball, and they had tremendous amounts of space to run into. Also, Daniel Sturridge was probably fit 3/4 of the times that he wasn't and didn't make himself available, and I think he sullied his opportunity to probably become a very, very good Liverpool legend. So I have Sturridge at 9. At number 8, I have Dirk Kuyt, purely and simply because Esmeralda feels sorry for him. And, you know, he should be ringing those bells somewhere along the lines. But Dirk Kuyt is the perfect example of a workman-like, honest footballer, but I never, ever felt, looking at what I'd experienced in Liverpool in the past growing up, that Kuyt was a bit of a downturn in Liverpool forwards. At number 7, I've got Bobby Firmino. I mean, he's got 70 goals. His assists is off the chart, 43. He's a fantastic all-round footballer. I love him to bits, but I just think the other guys are better. At number 6, I have Sadio Mane. Again, probably touched a little bit by last season and a bit of a lack of form, but I have to admit, I think he's wonderful. Again, I just think the boys above him are better. And number 5, I've got Fernando Torres, who probably had the ability. If you look at the minutes taken to score goals, Torres is top of the list. His minutes per goal is staggering. But the problem with Torres was, one, he left to go to Chelsea in a very, very bad fashion. And the second part was he never played more than 24 games in a season for Liverpool. He was another one of the Sturridge brigade. But I happen to think that Torres set me alight as a football fan. There are times, there's certain things he did, and for just destroying the career of Manchester United centre-halves like Vidic and basically retiring them like good old-fashioned WWE wrestling. He retired them in the middle of the game. I thought was fantastic. So I have Fernando at number 5. At number 4, I have the little Judas himself from Cheshire, Michael Owen, who was a prodigy. Unfortunately, injuries probably stopped him from becoming, two things probably stopped him. Injuries stopped him from becoming England's record goal scorer and possibly Liverpool's, and the fact that he's a greedy little shite who will do anything for money. So that's probably, I think, downgrades Owen, but he was at least one of our own. And now I'm stuck because, like the good doctor, God is God. God is God, but injuries blighted his career and possibly stopped him from being the greatest goal scorer of all time. I've got Robbie Fowler at number 3. But my respect for Robbie is immense. I've met him on a couple of occasions. He's very funny. He's very humble. There's a lot of humility to the man. He's a fantastic guy. And I'm going to have to agree with Manny, because at number 2, although the last 2 goals I've shown you, and Salah's done some wonderful things. He scored ones like that against Spurs. James would be ripping me a new arse here if he was on tonight. He scored the Thunder Bastard beauty against Chelsea, which is also one of the greatest goals I've ever seen. He scored some phenomenal goals. He's a wonderful player. But Luis Suarez, and I don't like him as a person, but when that shithousery, in the same way I admire it when Andy Robertson is doing it when he's wearing a Liverpool shirt, when he's doing that shithousery in a Liverpool shirt, I'm all for it. I am absolutely, I'm not with the bite. I'm not down with the bite, but I'm all for it. That man's indomitable will to win, I have never seen anything like it. I have never seen anybody light up a football pitch the way that Luis Suarez can do. Luis Suarez made me watch and think I was watching football directed by Hollywood movie directors. I couldn't believe some of the things I did. I remember being at Anfield in one particular game, and he took the ball from a break. There was a long ball punted from the back. The ball went to the right-hand corner, and he put a sprint on, and he collected the ball, and he looked up, and there's that wonderful photograph that most of you will have seen of Diego Maradona faced by 6 opponents in front of him when he's playing for Napoli. And it was exactly the same. 6 of the opposition had run to their back left-hand third because one man was on the ball. And I remember sitting there thinking, fuck me, they are that terrified of him. And all he did was curl the ball over the top of them, and Daniel Sturridge popped the ball into the net past the keeper. I have never seen anybody, and also the quality of the team. Mo Salah plays in a wonderful team, a team that's good enough to dominate Europe and good enough to dominate the Premiership, that's got undisputed quality in every single position. Suarez and Gerrard on the tail end of his career. Suarez dragged us as close to a league title as we were ever going to get to it. And for that, and the fact that he called his daughter Delphina, which is an anagram of Anfield, shows me just how much he loves Liverpool. I'll let him off tonight, Clive, and I'll let him off the shithousery at Barcelona, because he did exactly that when he was playing for us, and I don't expect him to change those standards. So, Manny, I agree with you by millimetres, just by millimetres, for me, because I've never seen anybody light up a football pitch like Luis Suarez.
I feel with picking him, it's a heart over head decision.
I am interested to talk about, especially if Matt's still awake with us. It's getting on for like Friday, wherever he is at this particular moment. Matt, you had some quite interesting expressions and opinions on this when we discussed this week, and you've been quite vocal for you on Twitter as well. I'd like to very briefly touch on the Newcastle United takeover. Very interesting to see that the Premier League, of course, those bastions of honesty and integrity, the other Premier League club managers and owners, including ours, very quickly held an extraordinary meeting to ban clubs from sponsoring themselves. Now, Jamie Carragher said in an interview 3 days ago with a group of fans, which is available on YouTube, I don't mind plugging it, if you get a chance to look at it. It's an interview with Jamie Carragher, Paul Scholes and Gary Neville, interviewing a lot of podcast presenters. Why the fuck we weren't invited, I don't know. But it's quite an entertaining show. And one of the things they were talking about was the Newcastle takeover. And Carragher quite blithely says to the guy from Manchester City, "Oh, I wouldn't worry about Newcastle. They'll just sponsor themselves the way your lot do." As if we all know that happens. Everybody knows that happens. But on paper, of course, it's not allowed to happen. And today, Matt, I think it was you sent me the message. The Premier League have banned that, haven't they? Or was that yesterday?
Yep. What's that? Banned what, sorry?
But sponsoring yourself.
They've banned it, but I'm sure they'll get.
Yeah.
Sure they'll,
do you know the only two teams to object to that?
Well, City,
Man City and
Newcastle. The two teams that are looking to prop themselves up by sponsoring themselves. They're like, look at this great partnership we have with the company I own, and is now flooding us with money where there is no representation, right? Clearly, I feel like I don't mind with the Saudis taking over the club. Right? They're saying they're going to keep it separate. And what is the league going to do? They're going to monitor it. But the one thing you have to prevent then is that they're not propping up the system. They're not inflating their own value artificially, right? That they're not taking Etihad, which is a country-sponsored airline, and using them to then flood money into the club, which then justifies your expenditure, right? It needs to all work out evenly, because other sides don't have that advantage to play, and you can easily game the system to flood your side with money if you mess with that.
Right. Well, up until City did it, the FA were not kind of even alive to this, because they're a bunch of old gentlemen, aren't they? You know, cigarettes and brandy. What's this? Have they done that? Well, and now they've worked out how City did it. Now they don't want it to happen again with Newcastle. But do you know what? The fact is that all the fair play money, all the fair play thing, well, what is it? It's in words only. It's about as useful as UEFA's anti-racism movement, isn't it? Let's be honest. Right? It's pointless. So Newcastle are going to have massive, endless amounts of money coming in. Now, Newcastle were always my kind of second team as a kid, and have been for a long time. I have a trouble now. They won't be, because Saudi Arabia, I'm sorry, we're not going to get into politics, but their human rights, their treatment of women, everything else, I cannot, you know, I think that's, oh, but hang on. Oh, you've got billions of pounds. You want to come into football? Oh, well, that's okay then. We won't mind. We don't mind. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Don't like that kind of attitude. But what we're forgetting is that Newcastle are in the relegation zone, right? Now, there's very little. They've got until January. What are they going to do in January? They're going to buy Messi. What are they going to do? They're going to buy every player in the world and then suddenly turn it around? No, they've got a massive problem. Who are they going to attract in January to a team that's fighting relegation? There's every chance Newcastle can go down. And then it doesn't matter how much money they've got. It's going to take them years and years. And I These people who've taken the club over are untested. They're untried. Who are they? They're people with money who fancy a football club. There's nothing there to prove. They're not even in FSG. They were in sports. No one's in sports here. So there's a lot of there's a lot of way to go. I am very against the fact that we've got Saudi Arabia a club in the Premiership, and I don't think it's going to be plain sailing. I think, and my empathy with the Geordies, because I do love Newcastle. I've always loved Newcastle Football Club, but I'm very uncomfortable with it.
Me too. I'm going to go to Matt in a second, but on the point you made there, Clive, I'd just like to say there were these chicken people in Blackburn, the Venkies. They had quite a lot of money, knew fuck all about football. Look what happened to Blackburn Rovers. Matt, you've had your hand raised far away because you've had some very strong opinions on this over the last couple of days.
Well, firstly, a country should not be able to own a football club. I don't care how they wrap it up. It's Saudi Arabia who've bought the football club. The PAF fund, or whatever they call it, is just another name for Saudi Arabia, and it's how they channel funds through to various diverse ventures across the world, and that's what they're trying to do. They need to diversify because oil's running out on climate change, blah blah blah. So yeah, that's number one. And then number two, the whole thing was the Premier League's blocking of it was nothing to do with was nothing really to do with Saudi Arabia itself or human rights or anything like that. It was all about the broadcasting rights. The minute they shut down the piracy, the be out queue, that's it. They let it go through. And then you've got people like the MP for Newcastle, Chi Onwurah, I can't pronounce her name. So she was the one who stood up in the House of Commons addressing the murder of Khashoggi at the Saudi embassy. And that was it. She was asking Foreign Secretary Jeremy Hunt to acknowledge that Mohammed bin Salman was the autocratic ruler of what is now shown to be a murderous state. Now she's celebrating the persistence and determination of Newcastle fans in exposing the anti-competitive and unaccountable behaviour of the Premier League in initially blocking the Saudi takeover in Newcastle. And then you've got another MP, I mean, this is MP, so you've got another MP, Ian Lavery, doing pretty much the same, who just said he'd never step foot in St James Park as long as Wonga was the shirt sponsor. And then he wanted a parliamentary investigation into the Premier League decision to block the takeover. So
it's amazing what a couple of Rolexes will do to somebody's opinion.
And the Newcastle fans themselves are also not, saintly in all of this. If you've been following it at all on social media, so basically none of this. None of this has anything to do the sort of campaigns by the Newcastle fans where they were abusing Khashoggi's widow on social media, attacking Amnesty International, bullying the journalists and like bombing them on social media, or any fan who dared raise any quibbles or objections. I was one. I had to block many people. It was all about broadcasting rights. It's all about money, and it's disgraceful. And yeah, if they may get unlucky as a club and not employ the right people, but they've got they have more money than. They have 3 times more money than all the owners combined.
Yes, yeah. I was just going to say, yeah.
So at some point, it doesn't matter how badly they run it. At some point, they'll hit on a thing, and they'll become successful because.
I think there'll be 2 things that will come out of it. Firstly, I'm going to pick up on Clive's point. January transfer window is going to be fascinating. They've got, because of the fact that Mike Ashley was a tight bastard, they are allowed under FFP to spend £290 million in January. However, what you get for £290 million nowadays is something. What you get for £290 million when every other fucker in the league knows you've got £290 million. Oh, trust me, Divock Origi will be paraded up and down there in Max Agent provocateur underwear with a £35 million price tag on his head. Tarkowski from Burnley will suddenly become a £50 million defender. It will be the repeat of the Manchester City. They will get things wrong. My concerns on a footballing prospect are that we will have someone else come to the table that can buy their way to the table, which unfortunately is the way of the world. However, halftime entertainment should be interesting. Apparently, John Joe Shelby is going to be beheaded for his red card last week, this coming weekend. And, should the hot dog lady not produce things to the correct standard, she'll lose both her hands if she has any money out.
Leather dresses are now in the club shop, too.
Yeah, I think it's disgraceful. I do feel for Newcastle fans. It's not their fault that Saudi Arabia bought their club, okay? It also wasn't their fault, and I do feel for the ones that had to put up with 14 years as Mike Ashley. As someone who worked with a company that worked for Mike Ashley, I can tell you that's a very shit position to be in. So I do have tremendous feeling for them, like you said, Clive. But I think a lot of I saw at the weekend Newcastle supporters attending the game wrapped in Saudi flags, and it made me want to vomit.
Yeah. We've, for Newcastle fans, and I've played, obviously a relationship professionally with Newcastle and I love Newcastle. And as I've said, they've always been my favourite side. When you've had Mike Ashley running your club for, 14 years or what have you, if the devil incarnate had come along, you'd probably be happy. So I don't, they've got to change, and let's not blame the fans.
No.
Let's not blame the fans here. This has nothing to do with the fans.
Only the several thousand who abuse Khashoggi's widow on social media.
No, I'm with you on that, man, but that's several thousand, unfortunately, really, reprobates of human beings, and they exist in our club and they exist in everybody's club as well.
People who genuinely, Newcastle fans who want to see the club get on, this to them is what they've been waiting for. Remember, they've supported their team. They've been turning up and watching it while Mike Ashley's owned it. They've gone week in, week out. They're some of the most faithful supporters. They do deserve a bit of light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah,
okay.
I
but it's just sad. It's just sad for all the reasons we've discussed that it is this way. And just one final word for me, the LGBTQ community, my heart goes out to them because a lot of them support Newcastle. And enough said.
Let's just say if they go on a tour of their home country sponsorship, I wouldn't advise them to go.
No.
Well, it's illegal.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Illegal in Saudi Arabia.
Well,
punishable by.
This will now roll into World Cups in Qatar, and you'll get exactly the same arguments from me on every single part of that as well. I'm not a great lover of international football. I have no interest in watching a World Cup in Qatar as well for exactly the same reasons.
And I have no interest in the World Cup every 2 years.
No.
We're all in favour of that as well. So, okay, thank you very much for that, gentlemen. Okay. I'm going to tell you a story. So in the preamble to the podcast, which Matt normally leaves in at some point or another when he's editing this, there are a couple of stories being told. Now, I'm going to tell you the story of, I should explain that my two current children, my two children who are with me now at the moment are Logan, who's 7, and Liam, who's 5. Now, their middle names are Logan Gerard and Liam Dalglish. They have absolutely no say in who they're going to support going forward. However, when I was a young man, the first time round, and I had my eldest boy, whose name was Scott, I decided to be a more open, progressive, stupid father. And I basically let him choose his own way. Now, he got into football around the age of 8, and he became interested in it very, very quickly. Unfortunately, at that point, that season, Manchester United released a black kit, which was it was the first all-black football kit, and he really liked it. Manchester United were also incredibly popular, so like many young children, he decided, and his mum quite liked Eric Cantona and all this sort of thing, to choose supporting Manchester United, much to my chagrin, horror and disgust. It's not something I'm proud of. I look back on and would never happen today. However, does anybody remember the 3-3 game with Manchester United when they wore that black kit at Anfield? In that game, which is the famous Razor Ruddock game, which we've interviewed Razor over a couple of times, United went 1-0 up. My son celebrated. I swore at him, something I'm not proud of, and told him to be quiet. United then went 2-0 up when Ryan Giggs chipped Bruce Grobbelaar 2-0 up at Anfield. My 7 or 8 year old boy got up and ran around the room. I glared angrily at him. Dennis Irwin put them 3-0 up. I chased the boy up the stairs. He managed to get up there in front of me having consumed a considerable amount of alcohol at that particular point already. Managed to get into his bedroom door, slam the bedroom door shut, and lock it before I could take out any more retribution. I went downstairs. We scored 1 from Nigel Clough. We scored a second from Nigel Clough, and Neil Ruddock scored the 3 to make it 3-3. Ashamedly, I marched up the stairs, banged on his bedroom door, and called Manchester United all the names under the sun. Now, the good part of this story is, when he was a bit older, about the age of 12, he suddenly came to me on holiday and said, Dad, I don't think I like Manchester United anymore. Now, at that point, we were doing a bit of commercial work with Manchester United and we'd ended up suing them. So he'd obviously heard that around that house and things as well. And I said, but his grandfather was an Arsenal fan and he was very close to his grandfather. And I said, oh, really? We were on holiday in Spain at the time and we were stood outside a sports shop. And I said, really? He said, yeah, I'm just not feeling it anymore. I think I need to find a team that's really me. He said, I'm thinking of Arsenal. I said, that'll fucking do. Walked into the sports shop, bought him an Arsenal shirt, put it on him. And believe it or not, gentlemen, they won the fucking double that first year that he was an Arsenal supporter. So all he thought was whoever he supported went on to win trophies. He's still a gooner to this day and is now experiencing the barren years that we had to all face for a long period of time. So it's a cyclical story. So the point of that story is, shall we sack Ole Gunnar Solskjaer this coming weekend?
No.
We want him to stay there forever, but we have a rich history of, I think, their managers packing.
Yeah, so it's United. Now, they do have the ability, they do have the team on any given day to do what Gary Neville said and do us. Yeah. But they also have the ability to capitulate and fall apart. Matt, how's it going to go? How's your favourite PE teacher going to line up against us?
He will line up with McTominay and Fred in the middle. He will have Rashford, Green. What's his name? His name? Greenwood. Pogba, the one who rolls over a lot and cries, and the other one who rolls over a lot and cries. So there'll be about 5 of them up front.
Rolling and crying.
There'll be about 40 yards of grass, then McTominay and Fred, and then there'll be Slabhead. Slabhead, who turns slower than a cruise ship, and probably Lindelof. No, who's the other one? Varane.
No, they're both. No, Varane's injured. Varane's out.
Varane's injured. Oh, it'll be Lindelof then, and then Aaron Wan-Bissaka.
Cole Bissaka. He'll be playing, won't he?
Yeah, and then Luke Shaw, the kebab boy, and
the Wolf boy in goal. You think? Yeah.
Yep, David De Gea, and we will. If they play like they did last week, we will kill them. I mean, it will be frightening. I've been reading the Man United forums and they are terrified because you just got to watch them. If he plays Ronaldo, they're screwed because he just doesn't move. Yeah. So, and there's so much space between the lines. It's like Firmino's going to have a field day. So, don't know. We'll see. We'll probably lose 3-1.
Manny.
Yeah, I just feel like they're probably the most disjointed team in the league, where everyone was simply picked because they cost a lot of money and they're a big name. That right, there is no system.
Your name's Sancho or Van der Beek, basically, isn't it? Yeah.
There is no system. There is no style of play. There is no grand design in all of their sides. So I think they're easily there to be gotten. Their defense looks really awful right now. So I think they're ripe for the taking for our front three who can't stop scoring. I think our defense will be good enough to hold them back. I don't know, unless they get a bunch of penalties. I don't see them winning. I think it's sadly, I think it's us winning and Solskjaer gets the sack.
The one thing it does show you is that I don't think Zidane is a very good manager, but everyone who sort of mocked him for saying, he's basically managing, a team of stars, Galacticos and all that sort of stuff. It does show you that it's not that easy to manage, a group of really good players if you're not a decent, at the very least, a decent man manager, but also tactically sound as well. Because, Zidane didn't win 3 Champions Leagues in a row by accident, and however many leagues he won.
Let's the record also show that Pep Guardiola, who's the anointed genius of football, has never done more than Mancini did at Man City, who is not the genius of football. So I don't care, right? Zidane simply took on a team of superstars who were the best players a side could assemble and did well. Thank you. That's what was expected.
Yeah, I'm saying, but Solskjaer hasn't.
Yeah, no. But they're far worse than any of those Real Madrid teams. I mean, the Real Madrid team had some serious talent on it.
Before we go into Clive, my 2 penneth on this are, I think Ole Gunnar Solskjaer has done a good job. And I'm not saying that because they're average. I think for someone who's got 3 years experience at Mould and a year's mouldy experience at Cardiff, that's as far as you can expect to be able to take any football team. Right, so
he understands the DNA, though.
Yeah, he's up against Tuchel, Guardiola, Klopp. These are people who have reached Champions League finals, won titles, done it in various countries, and he is, as Matt notoriously coined, which is now making its way across Twitter, but it definitely came from Matt originally. He is nothing more than a Norwegian PE teacher. He is clueless. I find it hysterical, but to give the guys credit, he's taken them as far as they can go, and long may they keep him employed. Clive, you've been around Liverpool Man United games for a long time, like me. I'm really looking forward to this. What about you?
Well, I think you've got to hit the nail on the head there. Management, he's not a great manager. He's got a team. I think that the signing of Ronaldo has been a disaster for the team. I think they're trying to fit him in. As you say, he's not a great player. As Matt said earlier, I think we know what Manchester United team are going to turn up. I think we know. But the big question is what Liverpool team are going to turn up. And I think that Klopp outweighs whatever team turns up. We might have a bad first half, but Klopp will be able to turn it in the second half. As I said, Liverpool do have the good, the bad and the ugly. If the bad turn up in the first half, it will be the good or the ugly in the second half and we'll win. If the good turn up in the first half, God help Man United, because by the second half, it wouldn't matter if the bad or the ugly turn up, because we will slaughter them. And I think that I'm really confident that we're going to absolutely do them. And I think that Solskjaer, I'm sorry, he's just not up to the job at this level anymore.
No, I agree. I think it's a case of now we have a team that also understand what this fixture means.
Absolutely. But there is one factor. It's like Premiership football can be like heavyweight boxing. One sucker punch.
Yeah.
One event, one thing, one red card, one penalty. The margins are tight. We're talking about it like Liverpool are like way ahead. No, but they're not. When you're talking about the Premiership, way ahead is to be like a fraction ahead as you used to be. And this and the other. One sucker punch and any game can go either way. And we've got to be aware of that.
In terms of points totals, though, in the ability to rack up 90 plus points, they are miles ahead. Like Liverpool and Man City are miles ahead of everyone else in that respect. So, last season aside, which was very much an anomaly, both teams are capable of racking up 90 plus points. No other team has done that consistently.
No, you're right, Matt. But what I'm saying is in the Premiership game, the sending off today, right? Here we go. The sending off today, the high foot. Do you remember Mane's high foot against Man City?
Yeah.
Exactly the same, wasn't it? Right? Okay. Atletico Madrid supporters were gutted and thinking that's wrong. He put his foot up. No, he shouldn't be sent off. We felt the same about Mane, banned for 3 games. That again affected us, didn't it? So that sort of thing, that's what I'm talking about, the sucker punch. That's why football is so exciting.
Go to the Portuguese guy amongst us. It would not be out of the script for him to score, would it, Randy?
No, I think the one thing we have going for us, and I think when we were more of a selling club back in the day, we got a lot of foreign players where Liverpool did not mean much to them, right? They were transient. They were here in the short term. They were looking for the bigger payday to go off to Spain or another bigger club where they were going to make more money. But I think the one thing that Klopp has instilled in this side and his ability to say, fuck off, Coutinho. You want to leave? Leave. I'm telling you right now, if you stay here, they'll make a statue in your honor. If you leave, you will be a nobody in a big club. And I think what we have now is a side of players who may be foreigners, who may not have grown up in the city, but believe in the club and believe in the spirit and believe in the system that Klopp has instilled. And I think that's what sets us miles apart from that side, right? Much like Clive said before, the marginal difference that makes you incrementally better in the league is becoming closer and closer with, the passing years. But what we find is there's a system, there's a belief, there's people that are built that wholly believe in this system. And if we're able to sign Salah, I think that's a big, testament to what Klopp has instilled in the club, that there isn't enough money outside to attract you away from the glory you'll get at this club. And I feel like that's what we have above Man City. That's what separates us from them. When you think of the two best teams in the league, what separates us from them is that we have an identity, a spirit, a system, and a belief in the city and the people and everything else that separates us from everybody else.
If you stay as a player, if you stay with Liverpool and you perform, you'll be a god. Yeah. If you stay with Manchester City and perform, you'll be rich.
Yeah, that's the difference. We have a unity, gentlemen. We have a unity.
Yeah, and many rich people in the history of the world have given up everything to become gods.
Yeah, there you go. Right, Clive, before we wrap up the evening, obviously people can hear your show Thursdays from 12 to 2 on 365, but tell us about, by the way, you very nearly, I hate to disappoint you because you'll miss out on the ticket sales, but you very nearly had a complete 365 surprise turnout at the Pizza Express coming up very shortly, but we couldn't quite pull everybody together. We were all going to turn up for the gig at that point, but we couldn't quite manage it, unfortunately. So we'll look out for one of those in the future. But you're on the road with the band shortly. Tell us where people can see you.
Well, we've never not been on the road, even in the bad times. When we were at the end of the 90s, very quickly, we couldn't buy a gig. We were dead. I did 6 gigs in 1998, right? And then the old band left. I kind of got a new band. We started doing covers and we started bringing the old stuff in. And there's been like a bomber coming out of a very slow dive. 2020, right? January 2020, we had our busiest year, booked for 35 years. What could possibly go wrong? Hello. We are now. So we're gigging again. We've got an album that's almost completed, but I've also got this show that you've allured to, called "The Doctor Will See You Now," which I wrote in lockdown, and I did a few performances of in lockdown. I'm going to take it to theatres. But that one, as you said, we are at Pizza Express, the Pheasantry, for 2 nights in November, and basically it's the show. Listen, the thing about Doctor and the Medics, we don't take ourselves too seriously. We never did. We never have. But we're the least likely band to have ever made a comeback. We're the least likely band to have ever had a #1 hit. We are the least likely band to have ever existed, to be honest. And yet here we are. Next year is our 40th anniversary. We love what we do, and we go out there and we play. And my heart goes out to everyone in our industry, and a quick shout out to everybody in the music industry, all the guys, all the crews, all the PAs and everyone. We've had 18 months out of work. We're all in this together, all the promoters, everyone, and we're all coming back. So listen, everybody, if you have missed live entertainment in any way whatsoever, if you've missed that communal spirit of getting together and going to a gig, you can come out now. It's okay. Come and see us. So everyone in London, we've got a gig this Saturday. I'm not sure if this goes out before then.
Oh, you'll be all right, Bob.
Yeah. We've got a gig this Saturday at the Arches in Coventry. And then we've got a few more gigs. But please come and see my show in London, because it would mean the world to me. It's only a small venue, but it'd be lovely. You can hear me. me talking about the medics, me talking about my life, playing songs. It's a bit of a show. Come and see us. Thank you for letting me have time to get the plug. Even though we've been on there for two hours, and I'd been drinking during the match, and I've been drinking ever since. So thank you, Matt, for letting me plug the show.
Very good. And where can they find details?
Oh my God. Okay. Well, these days I would say here's the address, here's that, but just go online and go Doctor and the Medics. Do you know what I mean? If you just go Doctor and the Medics, www.drandthemedics.com. We're on there, but just check us out on Facebook. 10 seconds searching, you'll find us. Yeah. So yeah. And we'll be plugging it like mad for the next 2 weeks.
We'll also be adding links to all of your gigs in future on the 365 Radio website. We can let you know.
Which is wonderful. And can I just say, this is my first time to publicly say what a wonderful family it is to be belonged to. And now I know that some of the major architects of this channel are NFC fans.
Oh, absolutely, my friend, absolutely. Gentlemen, thank you very much for joining me tonight. It's been the Reverend Dr Clive, who we will invite whenever you're available. Clive, you're more than welcome to join us, become part of the team. We'd love to have you. So we do this crap every Tuesday night. Manny from America. Matt, keep plugging the radio station and anything else that needs plugging out there in Turkey. I've been the Moose. This has been Pass and Move. You've been a wonderful audience. We'll see you on the other side, people. Peace out. Have a lovely week. And let's murder the Manx at the weekend. Good night, everybody.
Thank you.
Always a pleasure. Thank you, boys.
See you later, guys.
Good night.
O relógio já passou dos 49 prometidos pelo árbitro. Cai a chuva. Que tensão. Cobrança de escanteio. Alisson! Alisson!